Well, everyone, we just ended up getting iOS 17.6, and I'm not even done making videos about iOS 17.6, but we're trying to figure out in the back of my head basically whether we're going to be getting an iOS 17.7 or whether iOS 17.6 is going to be it. Now, there's a couple of reasons why iOS 17.6 could actually end up being the last version of iOS, for 17, and we probably won't get an iOS 17.7. If we look at historically what Apple has been doing, they will usually go through and give older iOS versions updates. So we've seen with iOS 16 and iOS 15, when 17.6 came out, Apple did push out releases for iOS 16, and iOS 15, and there's been .x updates for iOS 15 and iOS 16. Like we've gotten iOS 15.8 and iOS 16.7 or 16.8, whatever it was. We've gotten those big versions of iOS even when iOS 17 was out or iOS 16 was out. So why couldn't Apple drop iOS 17.7 for these iPhones? Well, we have until now, until basically September, until, this particular version of software comes out, right? So when September comes out, Apple's going to be pushing out iOS 18. There's a chance iOS 17.7 might end up coming out between now and then. So if that ends up happening, I think that'd be great. I think that'd be awesome. But there's also a chance where that may not end up happening. And the reason for that is if Apple just goes through and focuses on iOS 17.6 and gives us like iOS 16 iOS 17.6.1, 16.2, so on and so forth, then there's a possibility we may not get to the numbered release of iOS 18 at that point, because Apple's main focus is iOS 18. But the thing is if Apple does go through and if they do release iOS 18 and we're still like iOS 17.6, there's probably a 0.01% chance we'll ever see an iOS 17.7. And the reason for that, the big reason here, is because on iOS 17 iOS 17 in general, all the iPhones on iOS 18 are supported on iOS 17. So Apple wouldn't continue supporting an iPhone on iOS 17 or an iOS version of iOS 17 if they see that those iPhones are supported on iOS 18. The reason for that is because when we take a look at iOS 13, iOS 14, those specific versions of software are no longer getting software updates. You want to know why? Because Apple, because those iPhones that were on iOS 13, iOS 14 also supported iOS 15. So Apple's not going to continue supporting two different sets of phones on iOS's, just for the sake of people still being on it. So that's why they still gave iOS 12 updates, because that was the last update for some iPhones. iOS 17 is not the last update for a lot of iPhones. So that's why Apple is still continuing to support these iPhones on those versions of software. So, in my personal opinion, 17.7 could happen, but I kind of think it probably won't end up happening. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.